Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice Radio. So today, we need to talk about Dedenne. And right, Dedenne's been getting an awful lot of love lately. I mean, Dedenne's always been there, but Dedenne's one of those weird Pokemon, right? It's a little basic, but it doesn't evolve, so what do? Do you leave it be terrible? Or do you give it interesting attacks? And sometimes we give it interesting attacks, and sometimes we let it be terrible. I mean, we had the one a while ago now from Furious Fist. Did 20 damage for each energy on the active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon. Really nice tech against Evil Tally X. More recently, we got the one from Lost Thunder, which, well, it looked like it should have been good in a Nuzzle deck. 10 damage for each of your Pokemon in play that has Nuzzle to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It just never really worked out. But then, of course, we recently got Dedenne GX, and Dedenne GX is phenomenal. It's got the ability Diddy Charge, where when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards, though the ability is limited to 1 per turn. You can't bench multiple Dedenne and use the ability multiple times. And at the moment, everyone's still on a little bit of a high from that Dedenne. Well, what about the new Dedenne? Now, our translation here comes from a mixture of me over on Google Translate and the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net. And this new Dedenne looks like it might be kind of fun. Now, it's a fairy Pokemon, but it's got 70 HP. And 70 HP kind of sucks. If you want to search it out with Professor Alm's lecture, you can't, because it's got 70 HP. So right off the bat, we're a little bit sad. We're on the back foot. Weakness to Messel is honestly fine. The one thing that does spring to mind is that Dusk Maiden Necrozma will get a one-hit KO because of your weakness, whereas otherwise they would have been 10 damage short. But generally speaking, I think we're alright here, ladies and gentlemen. I do like the retreat cost of 1 because you get free retreat with either Escape Board or U-Turn Board. And I do quite like the resistance to darkness. You've only got 70 HP, you're still a wee little diddy Pokemon, but look, having a resistance is better than not having a resistance. And being a fairy Pokemon means you get to use Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star, which I'm actually a huge fan of here, because, well, you're a setup Pokemon, right? You're sat in the active trying to attack for a couple of turns to set yourself up for later, and actually, if you can do that while stopping your opponent attacking, you get quite the handy bonus. But what does it actually do? There's only one attack here, but I like it very much indeed. 1 colourless energy, 20 damage, draw until you have 6 cards in hand. That's what it does, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it does. And I like this. Here's the thing, right? It's a basic Pokemon for a single energy. And if you want to have a setup Pokemon that you can drop as and when you need it to give yourself a little bit of a boost in the early game, you need it to be a basic Pokemon for a single energy. So that, yeah, we've got that in spades. Is it good enough? I mean, in terms of the damage here, no. Look, 20 damage is fine as a tee-hee-hee, look at me do a little bit of extra damage. But the thing is, we're losing our best damage multipliers. We're losing Choice Band. Now look, it wouldn't be amazing, but imagine you're against something like a Rayquaza deck, because you're hitting Dragon Pokemon here for weakness. And imagine if you're doing 100 damage, which is a 2-hit KO, while drawing till you've got 6 cards in hand. Yeah, this is awesome. But we don't have Choice Band anymore. Or maybe if we had Professor Kukui, then you could be doing 40. Now 40's not amazing, though it will get a Ditto Prism Star. But then 40 with weakness would get something like Dratini, for instance. And I still think that Dragonite, like the new Dragonite GX, looks absolutely amazing. So I could see an argument for Dragonite seeing Plain X format. The problem is, we don't have these cards. So you're actually sat there doing 20 damage. Not 20 damage, but then we can add this. No. You're just doing 20 damage. Fine, you get a little bit of extra, but no, ladies and gentlemen, just no. But it's the draw here that I really like. You draw till you got 6 cards in hand. Now, The argument here is, well, hang on a second. This is drawing at the end of your turn. Wasn't it just a couple of days ago that we had a look at Blue's strategy that you support a card that drew until you had 8 cards in hand at the end of your turn? The key difference here, and it is a huge, gigantic difference, this is your attack so you can use a supporter for the turn. And that's essentially what you do here. I don't think Dedenne is doing much good after the first turn or two of the game. But it doesn't need to do much good after the first turn or two of the game. What you do is you play this in a deck where you can empty out your hand, and then you end your turn with 1 or even 0 cards in hand, and then you use this to do 20 damage and draw. Now that, I am all in favour of. I mean, imagine you've got something like a Lily here. You start your turn with a certain amount of cards, you play a bunch of cards, then you drop a Lily to draw until you got 6 cards in hand, 8 if it's your first turn. Then you play a couple of them and you draw again till you got 6 with Dedenne. And remember, we're losing Marshadow, so it's less likely that your opponent is going to be able to disrupt you in the early game. Now, in the late game, they're going to have Reset Stamp. Your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck and draws a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. When you've got 1 or 2 prizes remaining, this is actually going to suck. But you're using Dedenne in the early game when you've probably got 6 prizes remaining, so the worst case scenario is you draw until you've got 6 cards in hand with Dedenne, and then your opponent drops a Reset Stamp and puts you to a different hand of 6. We can live with that. Though do be on the lookout for early game judges, which will make you very sad. What I really love about this is in stage 2 decks. So let's say you're playing something like a Vikavolt, for instance. Turn 1, your goal is going to be getting your grubbin down on the bench. That's what you need to do on the first turn of the game. Get your grubbin down. Turn 2, you need your rare candy and your Vikavolt. So what you can do is use your supporter to get all of your grubbin down. Maybe even play Professor Elm's Lecture because the Unbroken Bonds grubbin does have 60 HP. And then use this ability or this attack to hopefully draw what you need so that you can get that turn to Vikavolt going. Maybe you even grab yourself a Charger Bug or 2 to accelerate, to attach them as energy. Seriously, Charger Bug is awesome. You attach it as a double lightning energy, but it doesn't count as your energy attachment for the turn, and it's an energy, not a Pokemon, so you can search it out with Pokemon Search like Pokemon Communication, and you can recover it with something like Brock's Grit. It's really kind of fun. So I like this. I don't think it's for every deck. I think it's for kind of setup decks. And I think you need to build your deck in a particular way. I think you need to build your deck so you've got more of a Lily engine, so that you're playing lots of cards you're going to play down immediately, so that you've got fewer cards clogging up your hand, and then when you've got fewer cards clogging up your hand, you can use Dedenne to draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand, and we're rolling here. I don't think it's a big powerhouse, but I do like it a lot. Because the other thing is that, generally speaking, if you want a setup Pokemon, until the rotation, we'd be going, well, you got a Alolan Vulpix. And Alolan Vulpix lets you search out any 2 Pokemon and put them in your hand. And then, of course, that evolves into Alolan Ninetales. And when you evolve up into Alolan Ninetales, you get to grab any 2 item cards from your deck and put them in your hand. But we're losing Alolan Vulpix. And we're still going to have Alolan Ninetales, but we're losing the Alolan Vulpix with Beacon. It's rotating out. So if you're playing a setup deck, and you want a turn 1 attacker, someone that's going to help you get rolling, this is one of the best ones we have. And look, if you're playing a dragon deck, maybe you want to play Drampa to accelerate energy. That's fine. And maybe you'd rather play Dunsparce to get all of your basics out, and that's also okay. But if you can get your basics out with something like Professor Elm's Lecture and then start attacking with Dedenne, there is so much here that can go in your way. And I love it, ladies and gentlemen. I really love it. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. I think this could be a really good card in a whole bunch of decks. I don't think it's for every deck, but I do think we're going to see a bunch of decks with this as a starting attacker, especially if we get some way to do a little bit of extra damage. and we can start KOing some of those evolving basics so that we can be taking prizes and getting set up using Dedenne. But remember, play around with Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star. You use Dedenne to set up while using Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star to stop your opponent setting up. I mean, that sounds like fun to me. But I would like to know if it sounds like fun to you, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.